Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So it's great to see everyone here after it's been 5 weeks from the start of the semester, or 4 weeks. And alhamdulillah, there's some hiccups here and there, but it's not really good to start off. So last time when we did our last Quran exploration last semester, it was about Surah Al-Kawthar. Today we're going to start off with Surah Al-Ma'un. And just a quick overview of how the Quran explorations go. Because if you weren't here last semester and you're attending for the first time this semester, what we do is that we read through the surah first, read through all the ayat, then we read through the translations of it, the literal translation, and then we talk about the implication and its effect on our lives. So that's kind of the way that we go through the Quran inspirations. So inshallah, I'll start off by reading the surah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون صدق الله العظيم. So the literal translation of the surah goes as follows. Have you seen him who denies religion? It is he who thrusts the orphan away and does not urge others to feed the needy. Woe then to those who pray, but are heedless of their prayers, who put on a show of piety, but refuse to give even the smallest of help to others. So that's the literal translation of the surah. So we're going to go a little step by step of the surah, and then it's just our implication in our lives. So to start off, you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when this surah starts, he says, have you seen him who denies religion? So he asks kind of a rhetorical question. He's asking everyone, and he's telling them, have you seen the person who denies religion? He's asking you a question. Do you know who that is? And then right in the next ayah, it says, it is he who thrusts the orphan away and does not urge others to feed the needy. Meaning that the ones that deny religion are the ones that do these kind of acts, that they thrust the orphans away and that they don't feed the needy. And the main thing was that this was happening during Mecca. In Quraysh, these were a lot of things that were happening. They would throw the orphans away. They wouldn't feed the needy. These certain characteristics that a person held, they wouldn't be exhibited there. And this now brings into a very important concept in Islam, which is that Islam isn't a religion. Islam is a way of life. That's what it brings. It brings that important concept. Because if a person who denies religion isn't the fact that he doesn't say, I say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I say this, I say that. But if in his actions, in the way he engages in his day-to-day life, doesn't correspond to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, that itself, you're denying religion. You're denying what religion is. So that's why it's a good thing to know, is that Islam itself is a way of life. Everything from when we wake up into the morning and engage in all our daily activities to when we go to sleep, even when we're sleeping, there's an answer to every single thing in our life that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and from the Sunnah. And that's the point, that's one of the main points that's being hit in the surah, is the fact that Islam is a way of life and it's not actually a religion. It's not something you say. You have to have implications behind it. You have to have a reason behind it. Your actions have to match what you're saying. And then he continues on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and says, woe then to those who pray. Now it's something interesting. He's cursing the people that pray. Why is he cursing the people that pray? We always hear, as Muslims, we should always be praying the 5 prayers. We're also always known for praying the 5 prayers. That's what Islam is known by. Oh, these people have to pray 5 prayers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cursing the people that pray. Why is he doing that? And he continues and says, but are heedless of their prayers, who put on a show of piety, but refuse to give even the smallest of help to others. So now this brings another concept of intention the importance of intention in Islam, then also brings the idea of hypocrites. So regarding the first one is intention. That we kind of talked about a little bit before. When you do an action, whenever, for example, when you're about to pray, you have to have the right intention behind it. Your intention shouldn't be that I want to please mama and baba, or I want to show people that, I'm a good Muslim, I pray, and so everyone can be happy with me. Oh, mashallah, this brothers and sisters, very good. They pray all their 5 prayers, mashallah. You have to have the right intention. It's only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how important intention is. And actually, also the mercy of intention is also shown us here. Why? If your intention is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even when you're eating, even when you're studying, even when you're going to sleep, even when you're doing any of your activities, if your intention is because you want to better yourself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm eating so I get more energy, so I can go do more for your sake, Ya Allah. That's how powerful an intention is. And it shows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. Even as simple as putting it in your head, this idea in your head that you're thinking to yourself, I'm doing this for your sake. You get hasanat for just eating. That's how powerful intention is, but also it's double-edged. If your intention is in the wrong place when you're doing the actions, it's going to go against you. Those actions, they're going to be considered what? Hypocritical. Which is the very same thing that we have nowadays, right? When a person comes and tries to help you and they set up a facade around you. And then behind your back, they're doing something completely else. They're saying something completely different. Obviously, that action, he's amazing. But his intention is someplace else. And at the end of the day, you're the one that's hurting. And that's why the sincerity in our actions and our intention is so critical and so important. And now this what links to the next idea of hypocrites. During the time in Medina, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ dealt with a lot of hypocrites. And actually only the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ knew who all the hypocrites were. But we saw the actions of how he dealt with them. He dealt with them as any other Muslim. He dealt with them that way. He didn't single them out and say, you're a munafiq, you're a munafiq, you're a munafiq, you're a munafiq. But what it shows that we're going to be dealing with people like this in our daily lives. Because it's not my place, it's not anyone's place to go and try to figure out what's inside your heart. No one's going to be able to know that except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the idea of avoiding, one, engaging with hypocritical people, and also 2, of avoiding being a hypocrite, which is the main one. When you're engaging with a person that's hypocritical, the thing is that you won't know that they're hypocrite. You won't know that they're a hypocrite. So engage with them as any other Muslim. Now, in due time, you'll notice certain things, and then you keep away from that. But the most important thing is you avoid being hypocritical yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses the hypocrites. And what does he say? Woe then to those who pray but are heedless of their prayers and put on a show of piety but refuse to give in the smallest of help to others. That's what hypocrites are. That's what the munafiqs were. They would pray unlike no other person. They would help the Muslims unlike no other person. They would help the Muslims out in the society, apparently. They would donate, they would do this. But what? When it was night and they were alone, they would come together and make plans against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And now this branches off as well into our daily lives. Okay, that was during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What about us nowadays? We can't be hypocrites, right? It's individual. We're not trying to take down. There's no one person that's trying to take down Islam or something like that, right? Well, no. A person, an individual, can be a hypocrite if their actions that they're doing isn't for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's to show off or for some other worldly reason, then that yourself, you yourself are being a hypocrite. And the things that it's such an easy thing to get into, but also such a dangerous thing. And who here doesn't feel good when people compliment? Who here doesn't feel good? Everyone's happy. Everyone's happy when someone comes, oh, mashallah, you did really good on doing this. Oh, mashallah, you studied really hard. Oh, mashallah, you got into this college. Oh, mashallah, you got married. Oh, mashallah. You always congratulated, and you feel happy. And it's not wrong to feel happy. But the thing is that that's where humbleness comes in. And it's realizing that no matter everything that I got is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why this idea of hypocrites' intentions is so important. Of being aware of your intention. Is it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or for the sake of someone else? And things that you might not notice it, but that's why it's our duty to sit down and think to ourselves. When I'm doing this action, for example, when I'm coming up here and giving this Quran exploration, am I doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or am I doing it so people can be like, oh mashallah, Malik's giving a talk? Is that the reason why I'm doing it? Oh mashallah, I'm going to put on the MSC Instagram. Oh mashallah, this is going to happen. Is that the reason why I'm doing this? I have to think to myself. And no one here is going to know my intention except me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we got to think to ourselves, sit down. It's so important to sit down and just think, what is the reason why I'm doing this? To fix your intentions. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He curses. And it's not a simple thing, He curses the people that are munafiq. The people that pray, but they just should put on a show of piety. They just want to show everyone as if, but intentionally in their heart they're not doing that. And I hope I hit that point really well of how dangerous it is of the being hypocritical of your intentions, and just the fact that even in Islam, it's that all your actions have to follow according to Islam as well. That Islam is a way of life, not a religion. All that falls into place. Because once your intention is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and once you have an understanding that Islam is my deen, everything I have to be doing is according to Islam, you'll realize yourself that your actions are going to start being towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It'll fall into place. Because once, for example, if you get a good idea, and now that idea becomes a concept in your head. That concept is, I want to do everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's become firm. That has an implication on your actions. Every individual, their actions is affected by the concept that they hold in their head. If they're more democratic, their concepts will be more democratic. If they're more liberal, they're maybe more liberal. If they're Republican, if they have this idea, that idea, if they have this concept solidified in their head, that's going to affect their actions. And that's why when we judge people's personalities and their thoughts by what? Their actions, what they say, what they do. It's a result of the concepts they hold. So now if we change our concept and say everything's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we change our intention, that will have an implication on our actions. Does that kind of make sense, guys? Are there any other questions before I go? Some very minor points brought in the surah. Are there any other questions about what was said so far? Anything? Yeah.
Hey, and this might be difficult to answer, but any chance you have any specific examples of people during the time of Rasulullah who were known to be hypocrites, and what the Prophet then did with them or something? If not.
So things that majority of the time it was I actually gave a football in this, I think the second week before last semester ended. It was a story of Malik, in which he stayed back after Tabuk, and it was an order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that everyone has to go to Tabuk. And due to Malik being procrastination and kept pushing it off, and because he wanted to make sure that he got as many crops as he could, he stayed back. But the thing is that when he noticed is that when he stayed back in Medina, all the people that were around him were also munafiq. The only people that were left in Medina were the munafiqs, or the elderly, or the people that couldn't go to Tabuk, obviously because of a lot of reasons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed them not to go. Those were the only people left. So when the Prophet Muhammad came back from Tabuk and came to Medina, everyone came to give their excuses. Everyone, all the munafiqs, and everyone who stayed back came to give their excuses. Someone who said, there was something going on with my family, something this. They kept giving their excuses. The Prophet Muhammad said, your excuse is forgiven. Your excuse is forgiven. Your excuse. It's allowed, it's allowed, it's allowed, it's allowed. Even though Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew who each munafiq was. He knew that they were munafiq. He knew that they were lying to their faces. But what? He said, okay. Because at the end of the day, it's not my job to figure out whether you're a munafiq, and it's not my job to figure out that are you doing it for my sake or for some other person's sake or for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake. It's not his job. So he leaves it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what? The one who truly is into munafiq, the one who truly feels in his heart, is a Muslim like Ka'b ibn Malik. Ka'b, before the Prophet Muhammad came, all the munafiqs were coming to him. Obviously, he didn't know they were munafiqs. They kept telling them what? Just give an excuse. You're really eloquent with your tongue. You know how to convince people. You're one of the best in terms of convincing and debating and these kind of things. So just convince him. Convince the Prophet ﷺ, and if the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gives you, that he says your excuse is forgiven, then obviously they'll be forgiven, right? Because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is telling you that it is forgiven. If he tells you it is forgiven, then what else is there? Just convince him. They're trying to push him that way. And until the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came, that was his plan. But when he saw the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he realized himself, no, I can't do that. That's being hypocritical. My intention is in the right place. So then he told the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ the truth. He said that it was due to my procrastination. There was never a time that I was more prepared than this time to go with you to Tabuk. I had a lot of things with me. I had 2 horses, 2 camels. I had a ton of food and water with me. There was never a time I was more prepared. But due to my procrastination and due to other things, I couldn't come. I didn't come. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he heard his honesty. He said, your whatever is going to happen to you is in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then basically 50 days of isolation where he couldn't talk to anyone, no one was allowed to talk to him. And even in the marketplace, he wanted to go buy stuff, no one was allowed to talk to him. It was all just physical exchange, nothing. And then during the last 10 days, he couldn't talk or do anything with his wife at all whatsoever. In his family, nothing. He was completely isolated. And during this time as well, there was people from outside of the Muslim, outside of Medina that came and told him, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he's putting you under harsh punishment. We'll make you a king in our estate. So just come join us. And he also refused that, realizing that what he's doing is not for the sake of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, it's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I keep on enduring this punishment, this trial, I'll be forgiven by who? Not by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that indeed happened. And an ayah was dropped down, just saying that, Ka'b ibn Malik, you are forgiven. There was 2 other people as well, but those 3, they were all forgiven. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala coming and tell you that, Hudayfa, whatever action you did a week ago, you are forgiven for that action. In the Qur'an, it says you are forgiven. That's how powerful and how true an intention is. And being sincere. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what you meant when you were saying Islam is a way of life and not a religion? Like, what is the difference between how Islam is structured versus other faiths, essentially?
Okay. So in terms of, let me go into this. Basically, whenever you think of a religion, you think there's Christianity, there's Judaism, there's Hinduism, there's all these kind of isms going around, which are the generic idea of a religion. So now here we're going to go into what the terminology means. Religion, nowadays, when we think of religion, it's something that you just do for your sake, for yourself. It's whatever, some ritualistic actions. It's something that you take care of yourself, but it's not something that you have to implement on your life and also help others implement. It just stays within yourself. That's why the whole concept that we have in America, which is one of the main things, with separation of church and state. The separation from religion from your life, right? Everything that you do in your life has to stay within your closed home or society or the masjid, and that's it. Past that, it shouldn't go. But we clearly know in the Qur'an, there's so many things that's set out how society should be run, how economics should be done, how politics should be done, how a lot of other things, just your whole life, how it should be ran. And that's the whole reason why the Prophet Muhammad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to go to Medina. I mean, that the Prophet Muhammad wanted just separation of church and state and just keep Islam as a religion, that would have been fine. The elites there were fine with it too. They were saying, okay, if you stick to like worshiping your religion, but you don't want to expand and say that we're not allowed to have any idols anymore. The Mecca has to now be ruled by Islam. If you don't want that, don't push that idea. If you just want to worship Allah on your own, we're fine with it. We'll even pay you with that as well. We'll pay you. We'll pay you. Like, just don't worry about it. If you just want to stop there, just we say worshiping, that's it. And then just staying away, you don't want to make Mecca an Islamic place, you don't want to destroy our way of life right now, then by all means, go ahead. I don't really care what you're doing. That's what they said to him. That's what was said, but Muhammad refused. Because Islam isn't just for a person just to go pray Qur'an, zakat, and it's their way of this whatever small, just staying secluded and not putting it in their whole way of life. And subhanAllah, how many rules do we know that, how many things in Islam nowadays that we can't do just because we don't live in a Muslim country, right? We don't live in a Muslim country, right? There's so many things that just either it's really hard for us to do or we can't do at all. And for example, who here missed one Jum'ah while they were in high school? I missed a Jum'ah in high school. I had to because there was no Jum'ah being held. It's not part of the system. It's not a way of life for them. It's not a way of life. And eventually I had to, it was difficult, but eventually I was able to hold the Jum'ah in high school. I had to miss. And it was just due to Islam not being a way of life. I hope that kind of distinguishes the difference between a religion and a way of life. Make sense? Any other questions?